Hey mathematicians, welcome. Today we're doing this page 34 in the packet. Looks like this, mixed numbers and improper fractions. So we're still working on this idea of mixed numbers and improper fractions. So if you see a problem like this, the first one, they want you to write the mixed number and then they want you to write the improper fraction. So if you, I have it written down here. So it's the easiest to write down the mixed number first, which is why they have it first probably. So a mixed number is like 1 and a quarter, 2 and an eighth, you know, whatever. It's like a whole number and a fraction. So we have one whole there, right? Got the whole circle. And here we have half the circle. So I have 1 and a half. 1 and a half. You just write them together like that. That's pretty easy, right? 1 and a half. 1 and a half. So that's the mixed number. One and a half. And for the improper fraction, you just count up how many halves you have. Okay, I've got a half here, and a half here. So that's 1, 2, 3 halves. And it's called improper, as we've talked about, because the number's too big up top. See, it's bigger. The number up top is bigger than the number on the bottom. That means it's improper. So that's all you're going to be doing today. It's just counting them up. That one's easier than some, but like look at the next one. Okay, how many holes do we have? Well, 1, 2, 3 holes and a half. So the mixed number is 3 and a half. And what's the improper fraction? Well, how many halves do you have? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 halves. Oh, I just did another one for you. So once you know what the whole looks like, then you know what the fraction's going to be. So some of these are not halves. Like this guy over here, it looks like it's 1, 2, 3, it's ninths. So you have the whole is 1, 2, so 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 ninths, so 2 and 8 ninths. That's the mixed number. And then they say, what's the improper fraction? Well, let's see. 9 ninths. 9 plus 9 is 18. You could just count them all too. 18 plus 8. What's 18 plus 8? Well, you could just count them up. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. 26. 26 ninths. So that's how you do those problems. And I'm just going to go one more time over just this idea that we've been talking about, where if you, like here we can easily count 1 and a half, and like, oh yeah, it's how many halves is it? Oh, it's 3 halves. But let's see, what if you get an answer and it's 3 halves and you're like, hey, can you turn that into a mixed number? I'm just going to show you this idea one more time. And I'll be showing this a few times. What you want to do is find out how many holes are in there. And we already know because we can see it up there. And a hole with a W, not just an H, but a W, means you have the whole thing. So you have the whole thing. It could be in halves, which would be 2, 2. It could be in fourths, which would be 4, 4. It could be in eighths, which would be 8 eighths. It could be in sixteenths, and I'd have 16 sixteenths. All that means is that however many times it's been divided up, I have all of them. So a whole is just the same number on top and bottom. So have you heard of the term AKA, like also known as? So whole could also be known as 2 halves, 4 fourths, 8 eighths, 6 sixteenths. I could also throw in 3 thirds, because guess what? A whole could be 3 thirds too. It means it's cut into 3, but you have all of them. 5 fifths, all the way up to 100 100ths. They're all the same. 1,000 1,000ths. I've never seen a pizza cut into 1,000 pieces. But if it was if I had all 1,000, I'd be like, okay, well, I still have all the pieces. It's kind of a bummer to have my pizza cut into 1,000 pieces, but I have all of it. So the whole just means you got all of them. So when I look at something like this, 3/2, the first thing I'm looking for is how many holes are in there. And what I look at, my clue is, oh, they're cut into halves, right? So I know for a fact I have at least 1/2. I at least have at least one hole in there, because 2/2 is a hole, right? 2/2 is a hole. But what else do I have in there? So it's in halves. So all I need to do is just make this side be the same as that side. Because when you have an equal sign, it's like they weigh exactly the same. It's not like too heavy or too light or too heavy, too light. They're just the same. It's like you're weighing two things are just the same. So 3/2 is going to equal 2/2 plus, well, you know what that is, right? 2 plus what equals 3? It's got to be the same on both sides. Oh, 2 plus 1 equals 3. So now on this side of the equal sign, we have 3/2. And on this side of the equal side, we have 2/2 plus 1/2, which is 3/2. Same. 2 plus 1 is 3/2. 3/2 over here, 3/2 over here. And now, because we know that 2/2 is the whole, remember we just talked about it? You have 2/2, but you have the whole thing. It's 1. A whole really just means you have 1. You have all of it. And in this case, it's 2/2 because it's been cut into 2/2. So because a whole equals 1, I can substitute 1 for 2/2, because guess what? 1 is 2/2. I've got 1 pizza that's been cut into 2/2. So I substitute 1 for the whole that I have, and then I add the half. So 3/2 is 1 1/2. Right there. So that's what we're going to be doing tomorrow too. Today, you don't really even need to do that. Just count them all up. So I'm doing like this one. I say, okay, how many holes do I have? Oh, I've got 1, 2, 3 holes. And then what's my fraction? Well, I've got 3. And then how many total? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3/5. 3 and 3/5. And I just count up all the fractions. It's going to be over 5, but how many fifths do I have? Well, 5, 10, 15, 16, 17, 18. 18 fifths. So this is your assignment today, page 34. You can do it.